Hi, you guys. You should have worked on this for homework. So hopefully this will just be review. So we are going to be doing the types of chemical reactions lab, and we're going to start today. You guys are going to watch a video of the first station, and then tomorrow you're going to do stations A, B, and C. So we're going to do the prep work today. So our question that we're going to investigate, there's kind of two of them. So it says, how can you determine if a chemical reaction occurred? So we need to decide if a chemical reaction occurred. And then we also want to investigate how can we determine the type of chemical reaction. So we want to determine the type of chemical reaction as well. So if we want to know if a reaction occurred and what type of reaction it is, we have to have a good understanding of what is a chemical reaction and what are the different types. So as I read, let's underline this connecting to background piece. So a chemical reaction is a reaction where we have a change from one substance to another substance. So the key here is that it's a change from one substance to another substance. So we need to prove that we have something new. So what we start with is not what we end up with. We end up with something new. In fact, the reactants and products have different properties. Some signs of chemical properties that we can observe are bubbling, because a gas is being released, a color change, texture change, a change in shine, an explosion, a new substance being formed, and a precipitate forming. If you remember from our precipitate lab, remember a precipitate is a new solid. So if we put two liquids together, you end up with a solid. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is define chemical reactions. So I want you to pause the video, turn to your partner, and tell them what is a chemical reaction in your own words. Okay, so hopefully you turn to your partner and you guys have a good definition now. So we got our definition up in this first part here, okay? Next, it says, what is evidence that we can observe that a chemical reaction has occurred or is happening? So this question is, what observations can we make during a reaction? So think back to the labs that we've done already. There was also a section up in our background that gave some examples. And between you and your partner, I want you to come up with 6 good examples. If you have 5 and your partner has a different one, add that. Help each other out. Pause the video and talk to your partner about evidence of the chemical reaction. Okay, so again, you guys, I hope that you talked about it. You are going to be graded on this, so make sure this is filled out. The last thing we're going to look at is our target 1, types of reaction notes. So you have 2 sets of notes for this chapter. Your first one was types of reactions. Your second one was balancing. So go back to that first one, and we're going to look at those 5 types again. So there's 2 things we want to know. We want to know what is happening in the reaction. This is the definition piece. But then we also picked out a pattern or a unique thing that helped us to pick it out when we went through our flow chart. So your Post-it note might also be helpful for this. So the example I gave was decomposition. In decomposition, one compound breaks down into 2 or more parts. So remember, when something is decomposing, we say it's breaking down. So in order for something to break apart, the pattern we look for is that it's the only type with one reactant. And remember, reactants are before the arrows. So the only thing it can do is break up. Okay, you guys, what I want you to do now is check over your answers for the next 4 with your lab partner. Make sure that your definition explains what happens during the reaction, and then that your pattern is unique for the reaction type. Okay, so if you need to change your answers or you need to add because your partner has great ideas, go ahead and do that. It will take probably about 5 minutes. And then you're going to flip the page and look at our first reaction.